Bonjour, Vincent, s'il te plaît.
Soleil, enchanté. Soleil, enchanté.
Bonjour, bienvenue au classe de stratégie. Préférez-vous les instructions en français ou en anglais?
En anglais, s'il vous plaît.
Each team has 24 minutes to present its case to the judges. The time is indicated on the timer as it comes down. Is it okay? Sorry. In case of a problem, I will indicate the remaining time with posters. The first 12 minutes are predicted. The judges cannot interfere during that period. The next 10 minutes are not predicted. The beginning of this period will be announced with this step. When the not predicted period will end, I will ring the bell. The judges have the possibility to interrupt the presentation during this period to ask clarification questions about the subject addressed at that moment. The judge has 15 seconds to ask his question, and the judges can only ask one question per side. The team needs to answer the question but can resume the presentation without the judge's approbation. Judges cannot ask questions on subjects that were already covered or that were not presented yet. These questions should be addressed during the period of questions. The last 2 minutes of the presentation are selected and should be used to conclude the presentation. If you do not end your presentation after 24 minutes, it will be stopped to move on to the period of questions. A period of questions of a maximum duration of 5 minutes is assigned to the jury at the end of the presentation. I would like to remind the jury that it's mandatory to ask at least one question during this period. Please note that you cannot reveal the name of city of your university, as it may be disclosed. I would like to ask the public to turn off their cell phones, and I will now invite the judges to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Lisa Rodriguez. I'm the National Director in Health Management for Metro.
Bonjour, mon nom est Catherine Desgagne-Bézé. Je suis vice-présidente des solutions d'affaires au Centre de services partagés du Québec.
Vincent Martel, Sales Director, Procter & Gamble.
Bonjour, Raphaël Sanson, professeur au Cégep Lévis-Lauzon, rédacteur du COP en compagnie de Jérôme.
Jean Garou, contrôleur financier, Société d'assurance automobile.
Jean-Philippe Magnan, Consulting Administrative Director, Société d'assurance automobile.
As an employee, sometimes I work on different tasks that I shouldn't be working on because it reduces risk if they both don't align or more people can use those same tasks.
As an executive, I know where I want to take my company, and I know what risks are blocking me from doing it. However, I have a lot of tasks to do, and I don't have the time to plan out the controls to assess those risks.
And as a customer, all I'm really looking for is a fast time to get the information I want, ideally online, and great customer service.
Bon après-midi, merci d'être avec nous cet après-midi. Mon nom est Mélissa, voici mes coéquipiers Souley et Marco, et ensemble nous formons Bowtie Consulting. Nous allons continuer la présentation en anglais, mais soyez à l'aise à nous poser des questions en français ou en anglais à travers la présentation. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. So we are here to provide SAAQ with a 3-year control plan for the second line of control within the CASA implementation. Before we begin, we've acknowledged a few key considerations within the situation that you provided with us, as well as a few trends within the industry, which led us to summarizing all of it within 3 key questions that we will be answering throughout this presentation. The first one being, is SAAQ current risk responsibility structure optimal? Secondly, are any internal changes in hiring required in order to improve your efficiency and further success? And thirdly, how will SAAQ communicate internal changes and further improve your customer experience?
We are very proud, on est très fiers aujourd'hui de vous présenter the Safety First Strategy for the SAAQ. This is a change management strategy that will focus on changing the current internal responsibility structure and investing in technology, innovative technology, to further your customer's positive experience. This will take place over 3 years in 3 phases, 1 year per phase. This is the plant, water, and growth phases, and they will result in an increase in productivity in your workforce, a reduction of overall risk at the corporate and business level, and an increase in customer satisfaction overall.
Thank you, Marco. Now let's look quickly at a small analysis that we have made for you. So we saw that individuals are looking for a more seamless and interactive online service coming from your part. So we saw that a few customer trends included additional online services, shorter wait time, quality information, and accessible services. And we see that SAEQ must implement this IT service, which is CASA, to improve the efficiency and efficacy of its service offerings. Individuals like Marco, myself, and Sule, when we're looking for information online, we like it to be convenient and simple, and these are some of your consumers right now. So it's important to take this in mind moving forward. Secondly, we see that there are potential risks that could lengthen the goal completion within your company. Some of it could be that there is client accuracy risk. When they're putting information within your software or even forms, they could be not accurate, or there could be some mistakes of them not knowing necessarily which information to put on there, which increases your risk. There's also the customer satisfaction that could be a potential risk for you, as well as a flow of communication between executives and employees. It needs to be flawless, it needs to be seamless, and as efficient as possible. So the key insight is SAEQ must address these risks with a proper internal control plan in order to increase your overall effectiveness. So we took a look at the CASO ERM framework, and we see that from looking at all of this, the big picture is your second line workers have a lot of work. They're doing a lot of tasks, and we see that there's also an overlap of tasks between the first line workers. So we see that SAEQ's current structure has overlap, and there is potential for you to fix this in order to improve your efficiency and overall effectiveness of not only your workers, but your overall operations. And let's dive more into detail as to what those employees really work on. So in the investigation service, which is line 1, what they're really in charge of is managing the risk, ensuring respect of defined controls between the operational teams, and analyzing the compensation claims. Within the second line, there's process improvement and quality assurance. What they work on is an ensure uniform and consistent transaction process across vice presidency, and suggest possible improvements to processes to increase efficiency and efficacy within your company. But we see here that your general directorates, which are individuals that work on your line 2, we're going to see moving forward how they're going to be bumped into line 3, and it'll be later explained. And in line 3, the internal verification programs evaluation, what they're focusing on is really evaluating the results of your company's programs and initiatives, assessing the risk management practices, effectiveness, and overall efficacy, and ensuring the compliance with laws and regulations. Now, what we want to stress is SAEQ must add new lines of controls in order to separate duties given the new information system as per the CASO ERM framework, and you can see how this could be very successful for your company moving forward. So we did a little bit of research, and we saw that the industry, the insurance industry, is going to change, specifically by 2030. There's going to be some big changes that we think you should keep in mind in order to remain top player when that time comes. So firstly, we're going to see that workforce related to claims processing will be reduced by 70% due to automation. So artificial intelligence is on the rise, and that's something to keep in mind. We also see that over 25% of cars on the road will be autonomous. There's going to be an explosion of data from connected devices that will lead to better understanding their customers. And lastly, the automated customer service apps or chatbots will handle a lot of the customer interactions, leading to a more seamless and online interaction and just overall better customer service. So the key insight is SAEQ must plan and take the digitization of auto insurance seriously if they want to stay relevant in the future. So this is something that we want to stress, and it's important moving forward. So what have we seen so far? I just gave you a lot of information, so here's a summary. So firstly, SAEQ must reassess the current internal control plans to increase the efficiency and efficacy of your company. Secondly, there's a separation of all duties that is required in order to reduce the risk within your company. And thirdly, SAEQ must plan for the digitalization of the insurance industry moving forward. I will pass it along to Marco, who will continue on with the strategy.
Thank you very much, Melissa. So our real question here is, what is going to be the future role for your second line individuals? It's that group that consists of the second line. So currently within their structure right now, they have 4 main tasks which we outlined, and we move forward from this. So specifically, they're carrying out strategic initiatives. They're planning strategy for the future. They're also performing advisory services and insurance of the integrated risk management system, which is key to our foundation moving forward. Now, those 2 activities specifically are things that should not be done within the same group if they're also performing the control activities and providing communication, providing information and communication with people below them and people above them. So in this case, if they're speaking with internal auditors and they're speaking also with frontline people, this poses an issue. And so what we propose here is the safety first strategy, where we will remove anything strategic and advisory and leave that to higher level management, and then leave the controlling activities and providing information to first level people with a new tier that we will create. And so this might come with an issue where you will have to have smaller specialized teams. We'll detail exactly what this would be within the implementation, but before we do that, I do want to outline how we rated our decision. We had 3 criteria specifically. The first is the reduction of the overall risk to your company. The second is the impact or increase in efficiency and overall effectiveness of your operations. And lastly, how easy would it be to implement these changes? Now, we rated this on a table from 1 to 3, 1 being the least favorable, 3 being the most favorable. And we look at the cost, the current structure, we see that it does not reduce risk whatsoever moving forward. And for this reason, with the addition of the new IT systems, we recommend not moving forward with this. Instead, we recommend moving forward with the safety first, because it will have the biggest impact on your efficiency and your effectiveness, which is what you outlined to us within the first place. I'd also like to mention that the efficiency was the key criteria in our decision making, and so this is really what led us to our conclusion. So,
we're proud to present to you Safety First. It's change management strategy that's going to be focusing on changing your current internal control responsibilities structure, as well as investing in innovative technology for consumer experience, which is going to be huge moving forward as the insurance industry makes a lot of changes. And this is done in 3 phases. The first phase, plant. This is in the first year where we're planning your new structure. We're going to hire a CIO, and we're going to communicate some changes internally, which the impact here is you're going to be increasing your internal productivity. The second phase, water. This is happening in the second year where you're really implementing these new structure changes, as well as training and communicating these changes internally to your employees, which will reduce your risk overall, and as well as increase your productivity moving forward. And finally, grow. This is in the third year where you'll be taking, you're monitoring your adjustments in these changes, as well as improving your app and chat and implementing a chatbot, in order to increase the customer satisfaction and reduce waiting times. Now, without further ado, I'll let Marco start off with the plant phase, which is happening in the first year.
All right, so we had seen the structure from COSO previously, and there's really 7 major steps here. And so whereas initially the internal environment was done by the third line, we are recommending moving forward that they do both internal environment, which is the overall tone at the top. This is the overall message coming from management to employees beneath them, saying this is how we operate, this is the attitude that we will have, and this is how we'll conduct ourselves internally. This aligns perfectly with objective setting. Because management should set the overall tone, they should also set the objectives for the company moving forward. In this case, it would be increasing efficiencies for the client using digitization, and this is an initiative that we know you're moving forward with. Now, this would really focus in on the higher level management. For the second line, what we really want to focus on moving forward is the event identification. What kind of risks can cause us to not achieve our goals? So if we know management sets the objectives, then the event identification, which would be the risk, would be set by the second line. They would also assess the risks and the overall response strategy. So in terms of assessing risks, it's really the likelihood of the risk occurring and the impact it will have on your company overall. And so if you take a look on that axis, the axis of impacts and likelihood, some risks do not require any attention at all, in which case you would have no response to it, which is why we group the risk assessment and response together. And so if something has a high impact but an extremely low likelihood, like a meteor hitting planet Earth, then there's really no response to do about it, right? If something has a really high likelihood but has very little impact, like rounding by 1 cent on transactions to $1.99, well, that's not really going to have a big impact, so we're really not going to have any mitigations to that risk. And so once they identify the risks, they identify what their response to that risk is going to be, they will then identify what the control activity will be to that. And so how do we mitigate this risk moving forward, whatever the risk may be? We would like for that second line responsibility to stop there. The first line, which is the front line, people who deal with clients, are going to do the monitoring of this, so essentially they will be performing the tasks, and they will then inform and communicate with the second line, saying here are the results that we found, and then that will be moved up to the third line as well, which is the higher level management. We really want to stress that the internal audit team will be the fourth line. They are the independent reviewers who will contact the third line directly, so they will deal with the higher level executives, and that's how we see the structure moving forward. We understand that we're not separating all of the activities, but that was not our intention overall. We want to group things together that make sense, so that would increase your effectiveness without dramatically increasing your costs. And so by separating these duties, the ACQ is able to reduce their risk as per the COSO framework. So, what will these first 3 lines look like? Now, the reason why we didn't focus on the fourth line is because your internal audit team will remain your internal audit team, and there's really no change to do there. And so how will these changes be required? Your first line is your front line. These are your individuals who will be processing these controls or processing these tests. Our second line will consist of a specialized team within the back office. So these would be teams that will be analyzing the risks directly underneath the initiatives or the business activities that they work for. So we understand that you have a financial operations activity, and so we would assume that the CFO and the CEO would work within this activity specifically. And so they would have a specialized team that would produce reports. This is in line with the current IT system that's being implemented. CASA is separated by programs that focus in on financial operations, human resources, and we will be adding IT systems moving forward. And so yes?
Do you think that this will come with an increase in salaries for everybody? Because they're going higher in you're creating a new level?
So this could happen. We didn't account for it within our budget or within our model. So for the third line, we do not foresee anything happening. For the second line, you could make a justification that because your workload is reduced, that you will be working, you as an individual, working less hours. So you will become more focused in what your activities are, and as a result of that, you will increase productivity. And so there might be a justification for a salary increase from the employee part, and we leave that to your discretion. For now, we do not recommend any salary increases. All right, so these specialized teams will be working directly under their executives, and they will provide reports at the end of the day, or at the end of the operating period, so let's say by quarter. The third line will then have all the information together, and the internal audit will be the final reviewers before you go to external audit. And so this will be the new structure moving forward. So we mentioned that we want to hire a CIO. And the reason why we want you to hire a CIO is because you have a massive project that you're undertaking right now, which is CASA. And you have outlined to us 3 situations where costs have increased by over 2.5 times, where the length of the implementation has increased by double, and where you have a lawsuit, or there's a pending lawsuit. I'm saying you, but I'm saying what I really want to say is there have been other circumstances that you have provided to us with that information. And so if you have a lawsuit coming after this, then you would have unsatisfied clients. Ultimately, we're hiring a CIO because we want to reduce any and all risks related to the implementation of the CASA IT systems.
Pardon?
Oui.
Qu'est-ce que vous faites du vice-président de technologie de l'information, Carl Malenfant?
Présentement, la vice-présidente pourrait devenir cette personne ici.
OK, donc vous prenez pour acquis que le vice-président n'est pas CIO, mais qui pourrait être nommé CIO.
Exactement.
C'est ça?
Exactement.
Okay, merci.
Fait qu'on vous donne un profil en ce moment de ce qu'on voudrait avoir d'un CIO. Effectivement, si elle est dans la description, elle pourrait le faire certainement, mais peut-être remplacer la vice-présidente en ce moment. Fait que c'est vraiment d'ajouter une personne de plus pour être le lead sur ce projet ou pour ce projet dans le futur. En ce moment, on comprend que vous avez engagé 200 consultants spécifiquement pour ce projet ici. à un moment donné, ils vont partir. Leur mandat va terminer dans une année ou 2 années. Et que ce serait bon d'avoir une personne qui vraiment va être en charge de tout ceci, qui pourrait communiquer avec des auditeurs dans le cas où ça arrive. Fait qu'on aimerait que cette personne a plusieurs années d'expérience et qui ait travaillé dans le secteur public. Effectivement, leur objectif, c'est d'avoir une stratégie informatique pour le futur, vraiment sur le côté des clients et aussi le côté interne. And so this person is going to be critical, or this role is going to be critical to your overall retail strategy moving forward, especially when it comes to self-service transactions, reducing the overall traffic in your stores. And so the second line of controls will focus on control activities and communications as we have just seen. So essentially all of the objectives will be outlined by those directors, and these are some of the ideas or processes that second line activities will be performed in the future. And so if you would like to, we can go through this a bit more detail in Q&A for the sake of advancing the presentation on the board.
Right. So in the third phase, this is really where we're bringing up these new technological advancements. So first of all, you want to really communicate your changes internally as it's going forward. So in the first and second year, you are making changes, and the way to communicate that really is to focus on the communication of the projects, as well as really explaining what's going on with the CASA project to your other employees moving forward. So the message that you want to give to them is reducing your risk and increasing their peace of mind, as increasing the technological aspects of your company will help them perform their jobs at a better level. The theme that we're going with for this communication message is really certainty in moments of uncertainty. Right now, in the insurance business, a lot is bogged down by paperwork, and it does increase a lot of your workers' stress. So by increased automation and increasing the technological component to it, which is what we understand you're doing with CASA, this will actually help your customer, or your employees, feel less stressed and better perform in their roles. And the channels in which we're communicating this is really through board meetings, internal newsletters and emails, and we thought of also a fun little idea of bathroom posters. So little posters that kind of explain what's going on that your employees will be able to see on a daily basis to get that extra touch one. Oh, that's embarrassing. Okay, so the SAQ really, the chatbot aspect of what we want to bring forward is your first step into moving towards what the industry is moving towards as a whole. So what we see with Spixie, for example, it's a travel insurance agency. They've implemented a chatbot that really reduces their time for customer service, and we've seen that they've increased customer satisfaction as a result. So the way that the SAEQ could do this, for example, is let's take someone who doesn't have their driver's license yet, but it wants to take an exam or wants to go through a school. The booking process would be much faster with a chatbot as opposed to the current method, which is entering your name in a field. Sometimes they might have questions, they might be unsure, but if they ask their questions to a chatbot, those answers will be given to them and they'll have an increased peace of mind. So, improving the current SAQ mobile app right now, you do have an app that we want to add to it. Your app currently just tells you kind of what's going on with your car as you're moving forward, some potential things that are happening, but we want to add an FAQ of what people might have in terms of questions in general about their auto insurance. We want to add this chatbot feature as well as a customer service contact, a representative, if you will, of their account that will oversee the data managed by the chatbot. Implementing a chatbot will lead to faster communication between your customers and your company, as well as reduce your wait time. And by reducing your wait time, you're going to have more satisfied and less frustrated customers. And so happier customers will lead to an increase in premiums overall, which the SAEQ can leverage with other companies to benefit their partners moving forward. So the chatbot actually has two features. Not only will it help your customer satisfaction, but it actually gathers a bunch of data as to what the customer's main issues are, what their frustrations are, and this will help the SAEQ as well as its partners develop new features and new services to help their customers' needs moving forward. And now let's take a look at what the future of the auto insurance industry is and where the SAEQ needs to be placed in the future in order to be able to capitalize on this. So, you need to start implementing systems and educating your employees as well as your customers in order to keep up with future trends. So the chatbot is the first step of doing that. Your internal CASA system is another step as well. And having those two work together will really lead to a better overall integrity. So as we saw with Melissa's analysis earlier, there will be an explosion of data and connected devices, the rise of autonomous vehicles as well as shared data ecosystems, And in general, the claims processes for insurers will be going down due to automation. So this is something that you need to keep in mind moving forward in order to position yourself correctly, and we believe that safety first is the way to do that moving forward. So we have a lot of models and assumptions that we're happy to go through in the Q&A period, but we're looking at a budget of about $500,000, which is something that you can afford currently, given your big surplus that you've accumulated over the years. We've identified some potential roadblocks as well, which we can go into more detail in the Q&A period, some risks and mitigations. But overall, I'm going to let Melissa conclude the overall presentation.
Thank you, Sule. So we saw a few key questions. So the first one being, is AAQ current risk responsibility structure optimal? We saw that no. So further certification of duties and introducing that fourth line is going to be quite necessary and successful. Secondly, are any internal changes in hiring required? Yes, so we saw that you could potentially hire a CIO, or if your current president fits the role, then that would fix that issue for you. And lastly, how will SAAQ communicate those internal changes? We saw that internal channels of communications would work best, and introducing that chatbot for consumers would do great things for your company. So, lastly, bringing everything back together. As an employee, I had a lot of tasks to do, but now with the limitation of the restructuring of the line, I get to really focus on what's necessary and reduce the risk of the company.
As an executive, I still have those same strategic directions, and I know what risks are associated with them, and I'm going to receive a report in 3 months' time from now, knowing exactly what details there are about it, and so I trust my employees to do that work for me.
And as a customer, I am happy that my service is fast and I can find everything online and through the chatbot. Thank you, and we open the time for the questions.
Je suis curieux pour la slide sur le coût.
Absolument.
Comment vous pouvez subventionner ou financer cette entreprise-là?
Yep, so from our understanding, you have a large surplus that you can use to finance some of it. Although you will be able to get certain grants from the government as well for the research and development aspect of it, so the chatbot and so on. And you are in a positive financial state right now in order to be able to hire a new CIO and implement these changes moving forward. This $500,000 cost is really over the next 3 years and not just like a one-time thing that you do at the beginning of like tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the COSO ERM framework. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, definitely. So the COSO internal framework is something that was set up by the Internal Auditors Association. And so specifically what this does is it allows companies a framework on how to identify risks and what actions should be taken in order to achieve those risks. So there's the COSO framework and the ERM framework. The ERM framework has a few more steps. And so I believe this is the visual representation of it. And so the steps are, we group 2 steps together, but really there's 8 steps. This can go across multiple initiatives, so either strategic, operations, reporting, or compliance, and it can be done on multiple business levels, so either subsidiary or divisions. And so this is a really universal framework that can apply to internal audit in any company, really.
Thank you.
En quoi vous pensez là, que ce que vous suggérez va être bon pour le développement durable?
Développement durable,
green.
Yeah.
So could you repeat the question?
Sustainability.
Oh, okay.
That's the question.
Okay, perfect. So essentially, your entrance into the IT or this movement towards IT is going to have a reduction of paper usage as well as a reduction in traveling time. If people don't have to go within store, there's CO2 emission reductions. If people don't have to write out forms on paper, there's paper reductions. And so when it comes to sustainability specifically, that's going to be your major impact. From there, we'll see in the future that using chatbots and IoT things will also have a further reduction in terms of energy usage and also in terms of the operating hours for your labor. And so that's a little side point that's not necessarily sustainability, but you would have a reduction in required labor hours after this.
I'm just curious, you're suggesting essentially a new structure at the same time as a major project implementation, some technology and whatnot. Are you not afraid that's going to compound and create more issues, or how are you going to manage that?
So for that specifically, we're not afraid it's going to compound whatsoever. So right now what we want to do is introduce the new teams along with the new system. So as the new system is being developed, essentially find a new CIO, develop some best practices, and all that is going to be communicated once the new project launches. So yes, there will be a drastic change in one moment, but after that, there will be a progression of adoption from your employees internally, and so there's really just one point of inflection in terms of change.
Merci.
Merci.